Okay, so today we're going to talk about sleep paralysis. Um, and we're going to discuss kind of how it relates within the paranormal, but some kind of scientific facts behind it as well. So I mentioned in one of my prior videos that actually, sleep paralysis can be a paranormal thing. At this point in time, it seems to be more of a paranormal thing. If I'm being honest. There's a lot of people. About 40% of people, um, will experience sleep paralysis at one point in their life. And it can be different for each and every one of us. So, like I mentioned in my previous video, generally sleep paralysis, if we're coming from a paranormal perspective, um, sleep paralysis is associated with the succubi, which is the female demonic entity. She's also known as the old hag. And, there's been several people out there that have had this experience. They may not have necessarily seen the old hag along with the sleep paralysis, but there's some form of entity, dark entity, generally appears to be, that will approach whilst they're in sleep paralysis. And some go through this more than others do. There was this one, she was very young, one female actually, that endured sleep paralysis randomly. She was very young. She was quite troubled, really. She had no stable home. She was pregnant very young. So she was a teenager, but she was alone. And once she kind of had her baby, one day out of the blue, she just remembers, kind of waking up in the middle of the night, not being able to move her body. The only thing she could do was move her eyes. And then this old hag would approach her each night. But it started kind of gradually, but then it stuck with her for a long, long time. And it got worse and worse and worse. So instead of it just say being once a night, it would become several times in a night. And I cannot possibly imagine kind of hearing this young female story was very heartbreaking, very, very heartbreaking, because she had gone to doctors. The doctors merely stated that, it was in her head, and it didn't matter even if she was given some sleep aid to obviously help her to get to sleep. This just kept happening, and it's really daunting, because I've heard and I've seen a few stories of people experience sleep paralysis, but this was one that really did stick out to me, because she was very young, like I say, she was alone, and it wasn't just once a night, it was a multitude of times during the night. And I think even her friend stayed over one night and encountered it, because that's how bad it was for her. So every night was a nightmare for her. Every time she fell asleep, it was a nightmare. It wasn't nice. It was stressful. Obviously for her, she was sleep deprived while trying to raise this child as a single mother. The doctors weren't helping her. And so she told her story on one of the paranormal shows, actually. And because of her situation, and because the crew that filmed her story, they really felt for her. They actually said, you know what, we need to help this girl. And they did. And so I'll be explaining now how she managed to get rid of the sleep paralysis. So before I tell you that, I will say that supposedly scientists have said, or biologists, what have you, doctors, whatever, they say from a factual standpoint that sleep paralysis is basically when the brain is awake before the body is, and that's why you remain paralyzed until your body can catch up to your brain. And that's from their scientific standpoint, and that's as simple as it is. They say that that's what it is, and that's it. So a lot of people that have experienced sleep paralysis don't get the right kind of, when they go to see their doctor, they don't necessarily, get any treatment for it. It's so I can't even imagine how it actually feels, especially for this young girl. So, what this crew did for her is to introduce her to a shaman, and they performed a shamanic intervention. So what that is simply a Native American sort of ritual, if you will, of cleansing the entire aura, the soul, all the chakras, everything. So pulling literally all the negativity that's within oneself out. So she had this shamanic intervention after dealing with this and not being able to, she tried other things, it didn't make a difference. This, like I say, this was unstoppable with this young girl. And they did perform this, well, the crew didn't, obviously. The shaman performed this shamanic intervention, and then it was gone. And it actually rid her of all the negativity in her life. And these things do happen to people for reasons. Like I say, everything happens for a reason. Nothing more and nothing less. There's always a reason why. And for all the things that this girl had been through, that was why. Because she had had so much negativity within her life, within herself, that she then had to carry and bear by herself, that it then became a manifestation. So that can be a reason why sleep paralysis can occur. Just like when you play with things you shouldn't, and you invite something in that you shouldn't. It's very, very easy to do that, and you don't realise, and I will say this, most do not realise the power of the mind. The mind is so powerful, so very powerful. It can affect your body. Stress can do crazy things to your body. That's another thing that I've learned over the past few years, not just through me, but through others. It can cause actual illness. Stress can. And sometimes people don't realise. And so, yeah, sleep paralysis is something not to be taken lightly. And that's something I will say, because everybody needs their sleep. Because when we sleep, we are actually regenerating. Our mind does its best work whilst we're asleep. So we need that to keep functioning. And obviously when you don't sleep, I mean, I'm a bit of an insomniac myself. You are, you know, I mean, there could be several things. You get very stressed, you could get very irritated quickly, you can be aggressive, obviously exhausted, you know, even get to the point of depression, severe depression, which could potentially turn to suicidal tendencies, and so on and so forth. So in my eyes, whether sleep paralysis is a paranormal thing and a scientific thing, you know, or illness, if you will, it is to be taken seriously, and there are things that you can do to prevent it. And you know, sometimes for different people, different methods work. And again, it's because of the individual and the way their mind works. And it's as simple as that. So each to their own again. And just please remember, the mind is a very powerful thing. I didn't realise that until a good few years ago, just how powerful the mind can be. So hopefully that's helped some of you out. I don't know. Again, if you have any questions, just send me a message, comment, or what have you. But hopefully this will help you out.